to the Trump administration, eager to address the trade issues that have exploited America and hurt our workers in the process.
Trade negotiations begin as the markets react positively to end the week. Why a trade war with China is still looming large over the economic future. One day after a deadly helicopter crash in New York, a plane goes down in Florida. What we now know about the passengers and the eyewitness who saw it all. And Decision Day in Louisiana. The long-awaited fate of protester Mahmoud Khalil is made. How one government official was able to push the scales of justice. This is the National News Desk, America's News Now. I'm Dee Dee Gatton. Wall Street finished the week on a good note after morning fluctuations. The major New York stock indexes up more than 1.5% today, capping off a volatile week that gained back a lot of the late session losses of last week. It's not quite back to where it was, but the markets on Wall Street seem resilient despite a loss of confidence on Main Street. The expectations of consumers hit the second lowest level on record. According to a survey from the University of Michigan, April's index reading of 50.8% is only higher than June of 2020 during the pandemic lockdowns. But this poll was conducted before this week's tariff pause. The next numbers come in 2 weeks. While in trading today, the U.S. dollar fell to the weakest level against the euro in 3 years. This might not be a bad thing. President Donald Trump in his first term said in 2017 a strong dollar is killing the economy because it's harder for American companies to compete in the global market. China raising its tariffs on American products again, and President Trump threatening additional tariffs on Mexico. It is the latest in the president's ongoing trade war. He says will reset global trade in America's favor, but acknowledges comes with some, quote, transition problems. National correspondent Atra El-Nashar reports from Washington.
It's been one of the most erratic economic weeks in recent memory. The White House is patting itself on the back.
Trust in President Trump. He knows what he's doing. This is a proven economic formula.
Tariffs on Chinese products coming into the U.S. now stand at 145%, and tariffs on American products coming into China have just been bumped to 125%.
If China continues to retaliate, it's not good for China.
The Chinese embassy in the U.S. says even if the United States imposes even higher tariffs, it would no longer make economic sense and ultimately go down as a joke in world economic history. China says with tariffs this high, they cannot accept American imports. So if the White House raises tariffs even further, China says it will ignore it. But should the United States persist in substantially undermining China's interests, China will take firm countermeasures and fight to the end. There's no telling how long the standoff between the U.S. and China will last or who will pick up the phone first.
Is the U.S. engaged in negotiations with China?
Not at this point.
China, meanwhile, flexing its muscles by engaging in high-level trade talks with European leaders. As for the White House's talks with other trading partners, those who benefit from the president's 90-day pause on double-digit so-called reciprocal tariffs, U.S. Trade Rep Jamieson Greer says negotiations with Israel continued Friday.
Over the last 2 days, I had a long discussion with the Vietnamese. We're speaking with the Taiwanese later today as well. I have a full dance card.
Trade relations with Mexico hitting a snag as the president threatens to hit Mexican goods with additional tariffs over a dispute about a decades-old water treaty. With so much up in the air, business leaders say it's extremely difficult for them to plan ahead. This week, the National Federation of Independent Business reported its small business optimism index took a hit, falling below its 51-year average, citing a heightened level of uncertainty. In Washington, I'm Atra El-Nashar for the National News Desk, America's News Now.
3 dead and 1 injured in a small plane crash near the Boca Raton airport today in Florida. The FAA says all 3 passengers of a Cessna 310 headed from Boca to Tallahassee died, while a man driving on the highway drove into a tree to avoid the debris and fire on the road. Witnesses told local news that the plane caught fire while circling overhead before crashing near the highway. All 6 victims of the Hudson River helicopter crash yesterday are now identified. died. Jersey City officials released the rest of their names today, and that includes a family of 5 from Spain and New York City for a birthday trip. The pilot, Sean Johnson, was a Navy SEAL veteran. He had around 800 hours of total flight time, according to National Transportation Safety Board Chairwoman Jennifer Hamady, but his experience on the Bell 206 helicopter is unknown.
We still need to calculate flight time in that Bell helicopter, and I'll have more information on that hopefully tomorrow, because he previously was flying a Robinson 44.
And NTSB officials are working to determine the cause of the crash, analyzing wreckage at a facility. Hamady said they're looking into the possibility of a bird strike. A Georgia manhunt has ended in South Carolina when a shooting suspect of 3 people was caught across state lines. The unnamed suspect in question, an employee of a Walmart in Newton, Georgia, is said to have shot 2 associates at the store overnight and then another person at a home nearby. 2 of the victims are dead. The other is hospitalized in critical condition. Police say the shooter knew all 3 victims and the shootings were targeted. A federal judge slams a lawyer for the Trump administration who can't confirm where a Maryland man is after he was mistakenly deported to El Salvador last month.
That was the most shocking thing of all, that the attorney for the government wasn't even prepared to answer the question, where is Kilmar Abrego today and what is his custodial status? I was very dismayed and disheartened by the fact that they wouldn't answer such a straightforward question.
A DOJ lawyer repeatedly stonewalled the judge in a tense hearing today as she tried to figure out how the government plans to get Kilmar Abrego Garcia back to the U.S. The Supreme Court ordered the White House to get him back, but government officials say the deadlines weren't feasible.
The Supreme Court made their ruling last night very clear that it's the administration's responsibility to facilitate the return, not to effectuate the return.
The judge ordered the administration to prove daily updates on how they'll get Abrego Garcia home. The White House claims Abrego Garcia has ties to a Mexican gang, but admits he was deported on an administrative error. His lawyers say he never got due process. ICE agents can continue making arrests in churches and other houses of worship. Today, a federal judge sided with the Trump administration in a lawsuit from religious groups. The groups argued allowing immigration enforcement in churches violated their religious freedom. The judge determined there's no evidence places of worship are being specifically targeted. The Trump administration is classifying over 6,000 immigrants as dead to essentially get them to leave the country. That's according to officials. This will cancel their Social Security numbers and hurt their ability to work, to get benefits, or to use basic services like banks. The Associated Press says it's part of a broader effort to target migrants who came in through Biden-era programs. A federal judge ruled that the Trump administration's illegal alien registration program can continue. This comes as the House passed a bill that, if it becomes law, would require people registering to vote to be required to show proof of citizenship. National correspondent Janae Bowens has a closer look at both measures.
Another win for President Donald Trump.
It's a very big self-deport operation that we're starting.
The administration's illegal alien registration program took effect on Friday after a federal judge gave the green light for it to move forward. It includes mandates like requiring non-citizens aged 14 and older to register with the government, submit biometric data like fingerprinting, and carry proof of registration.
They can be charged criminally, and they can face fines up to $1,000 a day and face deportation if they don't go home, and they'll never get the chance to come back to America.
Meanwhile, the U.S. House is bolstering the administration's immigration efforts by pushing for tougher voter ID laws.
Millions of people into the United States, wrongfully and illegally, many of whom carried out dangerous acts against American people, killed American citizens, but importantly, have been registering to vote.
The House Thursday passing the Safeguard American Voter Eligibility Act, which would require proof of citizenship, like a real ID or passport, to register to vote in federal elections.
The president very much supports a common sense solution to ensuring that only citizens can engage in our elections.
Most Democrats are pushing back.
The SAVE Act suppresses the votes of women, of Black, brown, and indigenous people, of veterans and working class Americans.
In October, a Gallup poll found 83% of Americans support providing proof of citizenship when registering to vote for the first time. 4 Democrats voted for the bill, including Congressman Jared Golden, who said the right to vote in American elections should be exclusive to American citizens. Requiring people to prove citizenship when registering to vote is a simple way to ensure that's happening. In order for the SAVE Act to become law, it would also have to pass the Senate. But for it to come up for a vote, it would need the unlikely support of 7 Democrats. In Washington, I'm Janae Bowens reporting for the National News Desk.
Former Columbia doctoral student Mahmoud Khalil is allowed to be deported. A Louisiana immigration judge said she had no authority to question Secretary of State Marco Rubio's determination that Khalil's activism was anti-Semitic. Khalil's attorneys say that despite being in the United States as a green card holder, he is still just exercising his First Amendment rights to protest. Khalil has until April 23rd to appeal. 12 current and former Stanford students have been facing felony vandalism and trespassing charges stemming from pro-Palestinian protests on campus last June that cost hundreds of thousands of dollars in damage to the school, president's office building. Along with the others in June, but was not charged. The group will be formally arraigned later this month. At this hour, convicted murderer Michael Motti is said to die by firing squad in South Carolina. He opted for this method over lethal injection or the electric chair. Motti was sentenced 2 decades ago for fatally shooting an off-duty police officer in 2004. This comes after the country's first firing squad execution in 15 years took place last month. Coming up, people not even born yet may be receiving millions in benefits. The new fraud report from DOGE revealing shocking details about unemployment insurance claims. Plus, common myths about what to eat when you're expecting, how pregnancy guidelines are now evolving. And later, the progress a California couple has made since being scammed out of $20,000 while trying to purchase a food truck. We're back in 90 seconds. President Trump is getting his annual physical today. He made that announcement earlier this week on Truth Social, saying he never felt better. This visit to Walter Reed Army Medical Center will potentially give the public the first glance into Trump's health in years. In January, he became the oldest U.S. president in history to be sworn in at 78. The results are expected later today. President Trump's tariff war could impact progress. Doge
cited an initial survey of unemployment claims dating back to 2020. The department saying it found multiple instances of abuse of unemployment funds, including from people with birth dates 15 years in the future.
Doge taking to X this week, revealing shocking new findings from a survey on unemployment insurance claims. Findings Labor Secretary Lori Chavez-DeRemer shared with President Trump.
We have over almost 25,000 people who are over 115 years old who are collecting $59 million that we have sent out.
Now, in addition to that group, Doge also claims 28,000 people between 1 and 5 years old claimed right around $254 million in unemployment benefits. 9.7 thousand with birth dates 15 years in the future claimed right around $69 million. And even in one case, someone with a birthday in year 2154 claimed $41,000.
Under the Department of Labor, those are the things that we're uncovering.
Madeline Somerville, an attorney and political analyst, tells us these findings come after Doge claimed it removed millions of Social Security accounts belonging to people listed over 120 years old.
When there are default dates, it looks like there's a wacky number of people who are receiving benefits that they shouldn't be, but that's simply because of the default data entry.
And she believes the same thing is happening here. Yes, some people could be getting benefits they shouldn't, but likely not the amount being claimed.
These instances of waste, fraud, and abuse exist. They're just highly inflated.
Now, we wanted to share an update Doge just posted on the findings, writing on X, California, New York, and Massachusetts had most of these improper claims, totaling right around $305 million in unemployment benefits. I'm Jeff Harris reporting from Washington.
Steve Witkoff met with Russian President Vladimir Putin today in St. Petersburg. This is Witkoff's third trip to Russia in an effort to end the Russian war against Ukraine. President Trump indicated on his Truth Social today the talks are taking too long, writing in part, Russia has to get moving. Too many people are dying, thousands a week in a terrible and senseless war. Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky also says Russia is dragging its feet on peace.
Today marks exactly 1 month since Russia rejected the U.S. proposal for a full and unconditional ceasefire. 1 month that has made it completely clear Russia is the sole cause of this war.
Zelensky also asked for more aid, which is coming in from European countries. The British Defense Secretary says the new pledges of military aid to Ukraine total more than $24 billion. Turning now to the Middle East, where direct talks are set for tomorrow with Iran over its nuclear program. Iran's deputy foreign minister said there is a possibility of reaching an agreement if the U.S. doesn't report to threats of intimidation. The White House press secretary said the baseline of a deal is clear.
His ultimate goal and the ultimate objective is to ensure that Iran can never obtain a nuclear weapon, and Iran has a choice to make. You can agree to President Trump's demand, or there will be all hell to pay.
The search for victims at the nightclub in the Dominican Republic is over. The official death toll sits at 221. Officials say a total of 189 people were rescued alive. More than 200 others were injured. 23 people are still in the hospital, including 8 in critical condition. A woman who lived with a pig kidney for a record 130 days is now back on dialysis because her body started rejecting it. Doctors said Tawana Looney is recovering well after getting the kidney removed last week. Looney was the 5th American American to get a gene-edited pig organ. Scientists hope these transplants will eventually be able to reduce the country's organ shortage. Clearing up confusion over what you can eat when you're expecting. Medical reporter Barbara Morris explains how the do's and the don'ts have changed over the years.
There's definitely confusion.
I mean, we know drinking alcohol is a hard no.
You want to avoid foods like sushi that can be more prone to giving you listeria.
That's because of foodborne bacteria. Listeria can be fatal to your unborn baby. Deli meats, too, same thing.
What you can have is soft cheeses.
Say what? Didn't that used to be a no-no?
In the U.S., most soft cheeses are pasteurized, so that's the trick. If you were to have raw dairy and raw cheese, then it would be a listeria risk.
Here's a biggie for many. Can pregnant women drink coffee?
Yes, you do have to cut back.
So what are we talking about?
So it's about 200 milligrams per day that you want to be the limit. And that's about 1 small cup of coffee.
So enjoy, but remember that many teas and chocolate also have caffeine, so that counts in your total. Too much can lead to miscarriage, preterm birth, and low birth weight. Struggling with morning sickness? Crackers alone may not be your best bet.
The best thing to do is to pair those crackers or any form of carbs really with some protein. Really, it's a powerhouse combination, the protein and the carbs together, that is going to help you feel satiated, also give you a little more energy to fight fatigue, and that's going to ultimately be more effective at fighting morning sickness.
What we're talking about is perhaps putting peanut butter on that saltine or Greek yogurt. If in doubt about what you can or cannot eat, ask your healthcare provider. I'm medical reporter Barbara Morse.
Coming up, the popular retail store that a woman says she wasn't allowed to enter because of her service dog. We'll be right back after this. The pulse of America. And we start in California, where a woman says she wasn't allowed to enter a Costco because of her service dog.
The gentleman at the scanner asked me, was my dog a service dog, and what tasks she performed? And I said, yeah, she is a service dog, and that she is with me for anxiety response. Then he proceeded to tell me that that was not a classification for her to be a service dog, that she was an emotional response dog.
McCurry says she offered Penny's paperwork and prescription for her to the manager, but the manager didn't want to read it and maintained that she couldn't come in. Canine Companion said legally the store is allowed to ask those two questions, but said, quote, staff cannot ask about the person's disability, require medical documentation, require a special identification card or training documentation for the dog, or ask that the dog demonstrates its ability to perform the work or task. meaning McCurry provided more than legally required and was still denied access.
Nelson Habecker of East Ave Liquor and Wines sells products from all over the world. France, New Zealand, Japan, Italy, you name it. What the tariffs are for each, well, it's tough to keep track.
I really don't know from day to day. You know, they keep them a secret until they release them.
Habecker says fortunately his business is non-perishable goods. He, like many other wine and liquor stores, can stockpile.
We can buy out to a quarterly amount or maybe a semi-annual amount so that the tariffs wouldn't affect us for another 6 months.
So he's good for a while.
I was hesitant because he told me, oh, there's this new location. I was like, I don't want to go through it again. But we had to.
And turning the page is what Nico and Nicaron say he and his wife Adriana are finally doing. That's after being scammed $20,000 in 2023 by a person who they thought was going to help their business grow.
We haven't been able to get our money back. I mean, we had to start from scratch again, from zero.
Chef Nico and Adriana say faith and trust is what kept them going and motivated them to work to buy another food trailer. The couple says with the help from those who donated to their GoFundMe, family, friends, and customers, they now have a brand new trailer.
Coming up, it's day 2 of the Masters, which American has made a run at the lead as cut down day nears an end.